Thank you. Thanks. After more than 15 years of living in Las Vegas, my wife and I pulled the trigger. We made the move over to Austin, Texas. There's a very much longer version of the story behind the why, but the short version is so that I could play in games like this one that I'm about to tell you about much more frequently.
Andrew Neeme, can he find this call? He's down heaps. Could get it all back here.
The longer version of that story has to do with the fact that my parents, who are in Michigan, that's where I grew up, that's where I'm from. I spent the majority of 2024 there in Michigan helping out my parents deal with some health issues that both of them were going through at the time. And I think we were just spread a little or a lot too thin, spending our time in Michigan, spending our time here in Austin, Texas, where my wife and I are a part of a couple different businesses, and also back to Vegas, where our home base has been for those 15 plus years. It's been a lot to manage, juggling all those things in 3 different locations across the United States. There's a lot that I could say about the poker games themselves in Las Vegas. I would consider myself very much a regular over the last 15 plus years, but I think those hours have slowly but surely dwindled to less and less. I think I've been a little bit less excited each year to play the poker games, the cash games in Las Vegas. I think that it's pretty clear that the majority of the mid to high stakes games have moved into private games. Now, it's not to say that I don't think I have any access to those games whatsoever, but I feel like if I'm going to be making an effort to get into some private games or some stream games, why not try and do that at the lodge, where I am part of the ownership group and I can try and help out the team there with my time and with my efforts, making videos or other forms of content. The time had come. It was time for a change. After much debate, my wife and I, more me, I tend to procrastinate and don't do anything quickly. It's one of my weaknesses for sure. But after some deliberation, packed up a U-Haul, threw our stuff in that U-Haul, drove that U-Haul 20 hours or so into Texas, and here we are, for at least the time being. Will we end up here for 15 plus years? I doubt it, but you never really know. Playing it by ear a little bit, but getting into some poker games and some bigger poker games much more often than I had been during the tail end of my stay in Las Vegas. And without further ado, I would love to tell you about this poker session that I played at the lodge, which was listed as a 5-10 game, but as we know, very much not a 5-10 game when it comes to Texas size games. The 5-10 stream game at the lodge starts with a $2,000 max buy-in, but it is match the stack, which means if someone doubles up to $4,000, that means the new max buy-in becomes $4,000. You can always top up to the biggest stack on the table. And at this point in the game, where this first interesting hand comes up, I'm about $3,300 effective with the nit game on. You don't want to be the last person at the table to win a hand. Otherwise, you pay a penalty of $500 in the form of a splash pot. And by the way, I mentioned the blinds were 5-10, essentially meaningless. That's just going to start the party. In this hand, there's a $25 straddle on, as well as me putting out the $50 straddle. 5, 10, 25, 50. We see a raise from the cutoff, and we see a 3-bet on the button. Tito makes it $300 to go. Action over to us. We still have our nit button in front of us, and so does the 3-better. And as mentioned, you don't want to be the last person to win a hand, so you can try and avoid that $500 penalty. Now, Slick Rick, commentator, has a saying, he's seen people lose thousands to win hundreds. Slick Rick is a smart man because we are wagering thousands here. We're shipping it all in here. The nit game, it guarantees action. Ranges are much wider than expected, and we are super widening our range here. We're gonna jam it all in here. I don't think 4-bet folding makes any sense in this spot. Let's go ahead and put all the pressure in. If we do get called, we'll still probably be in a situation where we win the hand 30% of the time anyway. Go ahead and jam and hope that we don't get snapped off. We managed to not get snapped off when action folds back around to Tito, but he does go into the tank, and we are very much rooting for a fold at this point. Sure, there's some hands that he can 3-bet fold. We're hoping that he finds one of those, and in the end, he does not have one of those. He's got a 3-bet calling hand, apparently. This is what the Nick game will do to a game here in Texas. And we are off to see 2 full boards. We agreed to run it twice, and we are hoping to not get immediately into the hole in the early going of this game. It's really bad news when we find a 7 on the first board, but Tito finds a jack as well. So his pair is better than our pair, and we lose one of our outs to try and improve on the second board. We get no help on that second board, and it's a disaster. Right off the bat, in the hole for $3,300, but not panicking just yet, because when you play in these games in Texas at the Lodge, you're guaranteed action, and there will be more action, a lot more action to come. That much, as mentioned, is guaranteed. All right, we are gonna try and pick up the pieces here, claw our way back towards even and Profitville, and in this hand, the $50 straddle is on once again. We see a couple of limps before the player on the button raises it up to $300. Small blind gets out of the way, the big blind makes the call. It's over to us in the $25 straddle, looking at King Jack offsuit. I think we would want to 3-bet with our suited hands, suited Broadway cards a little bit more frequently. Probably put the unsuited variety into the more passive of the options. Nobody likes a nit though, so I make the call. Son in the low jack makes the call as well. So 4 gamblers heading to a flop. That gives us a gut shot on the ace, queen, 8 with 2 hearts board. We check it over to the initial raiser on the button who checks it back. Turn gives us some showdown value now in second pair. Just trying to get to showdown here, and we check it once again, but hijack player having none of that, and he fires out for $700. Player on the button gets out of the way pretty quickly, as does the player in the big blind. It's over to us, second pair plus gut shot. Don't want to just give it up right away. Let's see what happens on the river. We toss in the $700. River's an offsuit ace, pairing the top card, which makes us feel a little bit better about our hand now. Makes it a little less likely that my opponent could have an ace here. Don't think there's any value in leading out here. Makes much more sense to check it over one more time, and my opponent is not done firing, this time for a much healthier amount. Bet size of $2,300 here. Not the size that I exactly had in mind. I was looking for a much smaller size that I was going to happily snap off, either pay it off or pick off some bluffs with. $2,300 doesn't exactly make it easy on us. This being a splash pot means my opponent can be in there with a wide variety of hands. The sizing definitely gives me pause. I grab some chips while thinking out loud, and that encourages my opponent to ask me if I want to see a card. I say, sure, I'll take the free information. My opponent shows me the deuce of diamonds. Not only does he show me the deuce, but he shows me the corner of his other card, which is what's known as a no-sider, which means it's basically an ace, a 2, or a 3. He only shows me the corner, so we know that he either has ace deuce, pocket deuces, or 3 deuce here. Showing us the corner doesn't really help too much. He's definitely capable of having ace deuce, even though he shows us the deuce of diamonds and the ace of diamonds is on the board. This being a splash pot, I think he can have any combo of ace deuce. Not every player will, but I think this player will. But what it also means is that he can't have a full house and he can't have a straight. So we're basically only losing to ace deuce here, and after a significant amount of time, maybe a little bit too much time, thinking about this one, decide that this is just too good of a river card for me in my hand, chuck in the couple of yellow chips and make the call, which my opponent is disappointed about.
Yeah, he didn't know? Fuck!
Wow. Can't work every time. Can't work every time. I knew that was you knew it? Oh, as soon as you said it, a good call. Good try, good try.
Andrew Neeme finds the call.
All right, we are a little bit closer to even, much closer to even, in fact, not all the way even. Lost some other hands. We are a little bit in the hole here, but the Nick game is back on. There will be action, and it's always nice to pick up a premium holding when the Nick game is on. In this case, action folds around to me in the small blind, and we look down at 2 black kings. $50 straddle is on. We want to size up a little bit here, both being out of position, and with the Nick game on, I go ahead and raise it up to $250. Over to my buddy on my left, Cinnabon, stream regular. He goes ahead and puts in the 3-bet, which we are very happy to see at this point. He goes ahead, 3-bets this one up to $750, folds back over to us, and that's not going to be enough money. Not with pocket kings and not in the Nick game. Let's go ahead and put in the 4-bet here. We don't need to go too big here. We're not trying to fold out too many hands. Yes, we are out of position, but it's pocket kings, guys. I make it $1,700 to go, and Cinnabon doesn't want to release just yet. No more raises, but he does put in the call, and we are going to see 3 cards heads up in an already sizable pot here. Flop comes down Jack 10-8 rainbow, which I kind of hate, to be honest. Yes, we fade the overcard, but my opponent can have lots of holdings that connect with this board. Pocket jacks, pocket 10s, pocket 8s. Those are all possibilities. Jack 10 suited's another possibility. I like to go ahead and c-bet my entire range in 4-bet pots. That's what I'm gonna do here. Don't need to go too big. I continue for $1,100, and Cinnabon doesn't think for too long here before making the call. So this is getting a little bit uncomfortable here, and we're looking for a blank turn card to probably go ahead and stick the rest of the money in on. But we very much do not get a blank turn card here when it comes down to 7 of diamonds. Now, there are 4 to a straight on board with backdoor flush draw. 2 black kings doesn't feel very strong here whatsoever. Board very much feels better for him than it does for me, so I go ahead and check it over to Cinnabon, hoping he checks back here, hoping no tough decisions, but the opposite is what happens. Cinnabon sticks all of his entire stack into the middle here, $5,500, with an overpair on this board in a 4-bet pot. The bad news is that we block a lot of his drawing hands here, things like ace king, king queen. Those are probably the 2 most likely drawing hands that he could have in this spot in a 4-bet pot. He might 5-bet jam with ace king sometimes, so maybe we can reduce that probability slightly. King queen suited, maybe even king queen offsuit. Those very much seem reasonable. And then we're just dead if he happens to have pocket 9s here, ace 9 suited, jack 9 suited, 10-9 suited, 8-9 suited. We're just absolutely cooked.
Welcome to Texas, Mr. Neeme. Can we find the call and then fade the river?
4, 5, 6.
Cinnabon not moving. Staring at the middle of the board.
Doesn't look too nervous, though. Looking like a blue smurf. Comp cool and collected. With all his money out there on the table.
You have a 9, I'm dead.
Yep. And it is the nit game. Makes the call. One of the biggest pots of the day. 16,735
You still have it?
with a river to come.
At the end of the day, nobody likes a nit. Did I mention that part? We stick in the call, hope for the best here, and it ends up being best case scenario here because Cinnabon has himself the ace 4 of diamonds. We are very much not out of the woods, but we are a big favorite here, 70-30, and on our way to winning, maybe chopping, and occasionally, very occasionally getting scooped, but that seems unlikely.
Cinnabon needs. Oh my God! Hits the ace. He'll get the first board and a diamond.
Wow. All right. It's all good?
Scoop for Cinnabon.
I haven't covered.
Just maximum punishment, maximum pain in this spot when Cinnabon hits an ace on the first board. And at that point, I knew I was in trouble. Just felt like it was one of those Texas hands in progress. And in fact, it was when he finds the flush on the second run out. Just a casual $16,700 pot when you get the money in as a 70% favorite and you end up losing not once but 2 boards is just maximum pain. And it's one of those hands where you start questioning why, in fact, did you move from Las Vegas for this kind of punishment? All right, I'm no quitter, guys. I did not come all this way in a U-Haul from Las Vegas to Austin, Texas to not add on for $10,000. Just happen to have 2 5K chips in my pocket, put them on the table, get some change, and we are back in the mix here. In this hand, the nit game is on, and There is only a $25 straddle on when we look down at the queen 10 offsuit. We're very much looking to get into the mix during the Nick game, and I go ahead and raise it up to $100. Player in the cutoff calls and the player in the big blind defends. And so we go 3 ways to a pretty good flop here. It comes down 10, deuce, deuce with a flush draw. I'm gonna be c-betting here. We want some protection for our top pair in this case. Don't need to go too big. I fire out for a $100 c-bet after the big blind checks it over to me. And the player in the cutoff thinks that is not anywhere nearly enough money. Decides maybe I didn't connect with this board, decides to get after it and raises it up to $1,000. Big blind gets out of the way and it's back over to us. And do you think I am in any mood to do anything other than stick all of the money in this spot? Because you would be wrong. I think our 10 benefits from some protection on a flush draw board. We don't want to see any overcards, lots of cards where we're not going to know what to do. So I just stick all the money in there and my opponent chuckles, gives a laugh and says he's got some bad timing. Indeed he does, and he goes ahead and folds his absolute nothing. Hand number 130 of the show now. We are approximately 4 hours into this live stream show. We are very much still residing in Stuckville, and perhaps the most interesting hand of the night comes up with only a handful of hands left to play. In this hand, we're playing 5, 10, 25, 50, 100. Not exactly your typical 5-10 game, but in this instance, we look down at the 4-3 of diamonds. We're in the cutoff spot. Let's go ahead. I'm still here to give a bunch of action. We raise it up to $250. Try to create action where I can, trying to get unstuck if possible, trying desperately here. All of the players in the straddle spots make the call. The 25, the 50, and the $100 straddles, they all make the call. So that means 4 of us heading to a flop that comes down kind of favorable for the 4-3 of diamonds. Jack 9-3 with 2 diamonds. Now normally when you flop a pair plus a flush draw, that's a green light to go ahead and step on the gas. But considering we just have bottom pair and considering our flush draw is only 4 high, I don't know how much I want to step on the gas and bloat the pot too much just yet. It's a board that a lot of ranges can continue on, especially versus 3 opponents. So when action checks over to me, I take the rare line when you flop a pair plus flush draw and just decide to check it back. Turn looks pretty fantastic to me. It's another diamond, the deuce of diamonds. We've got a flush now. I think it's pretty under-repped as well. So it gets pretty interesting when Jimmy Stacks' first act leads out for $325. Tito gets out of the way and San is next to act, and he goes ahead and makes the call. Pretty similar situation to when we were on the flop, not wanting to go ahead and just blast away here with a 4 high flush. In position, if there's no more betting on the river, we can always try and get another bet in that way since we'll be last to act. So I just go ahead and flat call here on the turn, and we head to a river card 3 ways. Turn seems pretty good. It's an offsuit queen. Hand strengths now the same as they were on the previous street, or maybe better, but they don't improve versus a 4 high flush. Now Jimmy Stacks decides to check it, and San, next to act, fires out a wager of $1,500. Sizable wager, not exactly a small one. I think if it was a small one, we could go ahead and raise for value here. But with a 4 high flush, I think a call seems pretty good. Not trying to get too crazy here, hoping that he doesn't have a higher flush. I think about it for not all that long, feigning a little bit of weakness, trying to get a call from behind us, toss in the $1,500. Things get extremely interesting when Jimmy Stacks now starts assembling more than $1,500. He adds an additional $4,000 on top and raises to $5,500. Action over to San now, who goes into the tank himself. San does not throw his hand away. After some significant thought, he goes ahead and makes the call. So this is a check raise up to $5,500 and a call in front of me, and we are looking down at a 4 high flush. Things were already interesting when we run into the check raise. And when I look over at San after he tosses in the call, I just pick up on a little bit of something that has me leaning towards the fact that he might not be that nutted. Now, I think Jimmy Stacks is going to be polarized here a lot of the time. He's either going to have the nut flush or he's going to be bluffing here. So I think sometimes, if we decide to make the call, we basically are giving Jimmy Stacks credit for being able to pull the trigger and polarize in this spot and find the bluff. And we also simultaneously have to assume or assign enough of a range to San where he doesn't just have flushes here, and he can also assume that Jimmy Stacks can be bluffing in this spot. Interesting, very crazy live poker spot here. It's gonna cost us another $4,000, but on the flip side of that is Profitville and all of the glory of winning a nearly $20,000 pot if our 4-high flush somehow happens to be good.
Can he find this call? He's down heaps. Lost a huge one to Cinnabon. Could get it all back here. Makes the call, Andrew Neeme. The biggest pot of the day.
What?
Wow.
King 10.
Oh my God, what a fucking move with ace of diamonds.
Oh, really good call
That's a really
too.
nice bet. Damn, wow.
Very nice play all the way around. I like Jimmy Stack's bet. He had the ace of diamonds. He could do it. He knew they couldn't have the nuts.
It's the right spot.
Needed it.
But Andrew, what a call. Gets the pat on the back from Cinnabon. And there's the smile.
Just one of those crazy live poker spots that you will find here at Lodge Card Club in Austin, Texas. Happy to be a part of it, happy to be on the right side of it this time. My hero calls work out in this instance and we get all the way unstuck. Very much needed it. We were buried. We were questioning life decisions, but we get into this game for, I don't know, $18,000 or something like that. Cash out of this game for somewhere around $26,000 and we end up booking a profit of about $8,000, which it didn't at all look like was going to happen, and things managed to turn around. As mentioned, action is very much guaranteed at the Lodge Card Club. That's why I moved out here. That's why I wanted to get into these games more often. Of course, it's not always going to work out like that. In fact, the previous night, I lost several $1,000s playing Cinnabon's private game at the Lodge, so we're not instantly up $8,000 after day one of Austin, but the adventures will very much continue here. I won't always be posting them here on YouTube in long form video format. This is vlog number 314 or something like that. There's also a lot of weirdness going on with YouTube and gaming and casinos and stuff like that. I don't want to completely be at the mercy of that because you don't know what's going to happen with that. So I expect I'll be posting some shorts and stuff along the way, but I also love it if you would check out my Substack where I've written a bunch of blogs already. If you enjoy reading, perhaps you'll enjoy my Substack. I'll put a link down below. There will be much more to read there. I will hope to update you guys, for those of you who care to follow along, much more frequently across various media and writing I've been enjoying doing. So I plan to post a bunch more blogs there, and I would love it if you guys would subscribe to the Substack as well as to this YouTube channel. All right, guys, I appreciate you staying subscribed to this channel after no videos since December. Now you guys know what's been happening. That's the short version of the story. Much more to come. Hope you guys are well. Cheers.